My husband and I have 2 kids, a 6-year-old boy and an 8-month-old girl. He told me for 2 weeks leading up to Mother's Day that he had an entire weekend planned for me. This is not normal, but there have been years in the past where I complained and felt hurt because he didn't do much for me on Mother's Day, while I always went all out for him on Father's Day and felt unappreciated. So I thought he finally understood where I was coming from and would make it special for me this year. I quite literally only asked for a massage, but he repeatedly said that it wasn't enough. So I don't know. At this point, I'm truly thinking he went all out. Anyway, Friday rolls around and a bunch of people start showing up. He invited a good 10, 15 people over. I think I knew 2 people. He called it the Mother's Day bonfire. We had a fire all right, but I was the one who chased the kids around all evening, my 6-year-old, while holding the baby and some other person's 2 kids because they weren't watching them, and quite literally no one spoke to me. I wasn't acknowledged until the very end of the evening, and that was by my husband's buddy, who told me he was stealing my husband to go out four-wheeling. It's like 11 p.m. at this point, and everyone except me was drinking. I said my husband wasn't going anywhere. I even said this to my husband: "You're drinking, you're not going anywhere." He took that as "Oh, I need to find a designated driver and then I can go." So he asked the neighbor to drive him around and took off with everyone. I'm extremely hurt at this point because this was my promised weekend, and I got stuck with other people's kids, wasn't spoken to at all, had a mess to clean up, and now my husband is taking off. I explained how hurt I am the next morning. He said he gets it and apologizes, saying he just had too much to drink and wasn't thinking clearly. Okay, I get it, it's whatever. We didn't do anything Saturday because he spent half the day sleeping off a hangover. Well, yesterday rolls around and his boss calls him at 6 a.m. and asks him to come into work because they are short-staffed, and he said yes. So I expressed my hurt and said, "But it's Mother's Day." And he says, "I know, I'm sorry. I just don't want to pass up the opportunity for more hours," which I get that too, so whatever. He gets home at 5 p.m. and starts getting the kids dressed and ushered towards the door, so I'm thinking we are finally going to celebrate. We end up going on a walk. I love walking. But 5 minutes in and he's complaining and has us turn around because of the black flies, which weren't even bad. So again, I'm disappointed. When we get back home, he lays down on the couch and says, "Oh, your gift is in the truck." So I go down and it's a $5 storage container for sugar flour. I do like stuff like this, but I'm so hurt at this point. I asked him if I could at least get a massage, and he says, "I'm sorry, babe, I'm just so tired," and falls asleep around 8 p.m. when he usually doesn't even go to bed until midnight/1 a.m. I just sat there crying. I took the 3 gifts that I already bought him for Father's Day and chucked them in the trash can. Personalized items that cost me more than I want to admit, but I don't even care anymore. He found them in the garbage this morning and asked me what they were and why they were in the trash covered in food. And I told him they were his Father's Day gifts and left it at that. He's now saying that he tried to make my weekend special, and that he's hurt by me throwing away his gifts to retaliate against him for it not turning out the way he wanted it to. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So for Father's Day, you need to hype up that you have something special planned. Really lay it on. Say he just needs to be home at X time ready for anything. Meanwhile, you are also scheduling something for you without the kids. A movie, that massage, going out for coffee with a friend. Something away from home. And when that time arrives, you hand the baby off and kiss Hubs on the cheek and say, "See you in a few hours," and go. After all, Father's Day should be about a father spending time with his children, not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. But please, for the love of everything, stop making excuses. He said he drank too much. Okay, I get it. He said, "I just don't want to pass on hours." I get it. Sit him down and tell him what an utter disappointment this Mother's Day was, because all he did was do things that he wanted and what were fun for him. That he left you with children to wrangle that weren't even yours on a day that should be celebrating you, while he did things that he wanted to do. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. It's been a rough few days since Mother's Day weekend, and I feel like I need to vent about what's been going on. After the disastrous bonfire and my husband taking off with his friends, things didn't get much better. On Monday, I tried to talk to him again about how hurt I was, but he just kept saying he was sorry and that he didn't mean to ruin my weekend. I wanted to believe him, but his actions spoke louder than his words. Tuesday was even worse. I found out from a neighbor that my husband had been complaining about me to his friends at the bonfire, saying that I was always nagging him and that he needed a break from me and the kids. I was devastated. How could he say those things about me, especially on a weekend that was supposed to be about appreciating me as a mother? I confronted him about it that evening, and he didn't even try to deny it. He said he was just venting to his friends and that he didn't mean anything by it. But the fact that he felt the need to vent about me at all, and on Mother's Day weekend no less, hurt more than anything else he had done. I couldn't help but think back to our early days together, before we had kids. We used to be so in love, and he always made me feel appreciated and cherished. But somewhere along the way, things changed. He started spending more time with his friends and less time with me and the kids. I tried to talk to him about it, but he always brushed me off, saying he needed his guy time. I realized that this had been going on for years, and I had been making excuses for him the whole time. I always told myself that he was just stressed from work or that he needed time to unwind. But the truth was, he was putting his own needs and wants above mine and the kids. Yesterday, I hit my breaking point. I told him that I was done making excuses for him and that things needed to change. I said that if he couldn't start putting our family first, then I didn't know if I could stay in this marriage. He looked shocked and said he didn't realize things had gotten so bad. He promised to do better and to start making more of an effort with me and the kids. But honestly, I don't know if I believe him. I've heard these promises before, and nothing ever seems to change. I love him, but I'm not sure if love is enough anymore. I feel like I've been putting my own needs and wants aside for too long, and I'm not sure if I can keep doing it. I know I have some tough decisions to make in the coming days and weeks. Do I give him another chance and hope that this time will be different? Or do I walk away and start over on my own? I'm scared and confused, but I know I need to do what's best for me and my kids. Thanks for letting me vent, everyone. Writing this all out has helped me clear my head a bit, but I still have a lot to think about. I'll keep you all updated on what happens next. Am I the idiot for confronting my husband over his mom raiding our fridge like it's her own? Ever since I gave birth 4 months ago, so I have 4 children total, my mother-in-law has been showing up whenever she wants, and when she is here, she always helps herself to whatever she wants. She has never offered to help me or the baby in any way, shape, or form. She is basically here to see her son, and that is it. Like about 3 weeks ago, I made a small pot of coffee, enough for 2 cups. I went to go nurse the baby while waiting, and at some point my mother-in-law shows up, lets herself inside. When I came out, she had drunk the entire pot. I had no coffee grounds left. Or she has eaten my leftovers straight out of the fridge multiple times. And she always says, "Thanks for the food/coffee." As if I offered it to her when I absolutely did not, because all she is doing is making my life miserable. I told my husband to speak to her about it, and he told me he did, but I truly do not think so. I spoke up the last time she was here 3 weeks ago, and told her she needed to stop helping herself because she is eating and drinking stuff that I wanted and or made for myself. She said, "Oh, I am sorry," and then stopped coming around for a while. Well, today I made 4 homemade pizzas. I told the children to come help themselves to dinner and that I had to go get the baby down for a nap real quick and would be right back. Well, it took me like 45 minutes because the baby is fussy. She just had shots. I come back out and all the pizza was gone and my mother-in-law and husband are sitting there chowing away. I just said, "Are you kidding me right now?" My husband asked what was going on and I said, "You guys could not have even left me a slice. Sure, let us feed the neighborhood before I even get to eat. That is so awesome of you guys. Thanks." And start to walk off. My oldest son, 13, comes in and he is like, "Mom, I left you out a plate." I put it right on the counter and walks over to grab it, and lo and behold, that is gone too. My mother-in-law said, "I thought it was left over from dinner." So my son is apologizing to me even though he did nothing wrong, but my mother-in-law and husband just stand there. They literally are not saying anything. So I looked at both of them and said, "You both need to leave now." My husband then decides to speak, saying that it was an honest mistake and that no one meant any harm, and said I was making a mountain out of a molehill, which honestly just pissed me off further. So I snapped again and said, "Yeah, except every time your mother comes here, I end up going without because she eats or drinks my portion of everything. But sure, let us defend someone taking food out of my mouth, shall we?" His mother just storms out of the house, and my husband looks at me like I am insane, So I say, "Quick, chase her," and walk out. My husband thinks I am crazy and that this all could have been resolved if I had acted like an adult. He will not come home. But at this point, I do not even want him to come home because it means his mother will stay away. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Nursing makes you incredibly hungry. This is so not cool. I love how your 13-year-old took on the man of the house role by setting aside a plate while hubby played dumb. Do you think your mother-in-law is doing this to create a wedge between you two, or is she just dumb as heck? Is your husband scared of her? Etta. Look up a post about a guy who kicked his wife out after punching his mother. Sounds awful, but isn't very close to your situation. Comment 2. Not the a-hole, your husband is in butt and is enabling his mother who is 100% doing this intentionally. I bet your son has noticed this, and that's why he tried to save you a plate. He sounds very sweet, by the way. I don't blame you for not wanting your husband to come home. Sounds like your life is easier without him there. Now, for the update. Hey everyone. It's been a while since my last post, and a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks. First off, I want to thank you all for your support and advice. It really means a lot to me. So, after the whole pizza incident, my husband stayed at his mother's place for a few days. I was honestly relieved to have some space from both of them. During this time, I focused on taking care of the kids and trying to keep things as normal as possible for them. It wasn't easy, but I managed. About a week after the argument, my husband came back home. He apologized for not standing up for me and said he had a long talk with his mother about boundaries. I was skeptical, but I decided to give him a chance to prove himself. Things were okay for a couple of days, but then my mother-in-law showed up unannounced again. This time, she brought over a casserole dish and said it was a peace offering. I thanked her, but I couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. Later that evening after dinner, I went to put the leftovers away and noticed that a significant portion of the casserole was missing. I asked my husband about it, and he admitted that he had given some to his mother to take home. I was furious. It felt like we were right back where we started. I confronted my husband and told him that I couldn't keep living like this. I reminded him of all the times his mother had overstepped and how it made me feel. To my surprise, he actually listened this time. He said he understood and promised to set firmer boundaries with his mother. The next day, my husband called his mother and had a long conversation with her. He told her that while we appreciated her visits, she needed to call before coming over and respect our household. He also made it clear that she couldn't just help herself to our food and drinks without asking. I was nervous about how she would react, but to my surprise, she took it well. She apologized for her behavior and said she would try to do better. Over the next week, things started to improve. My mother-in-law called before coming over and even brought her own snacks. It was a small change, but it made a big difference. Looking back, I realized that a lot of our issues stemmed from a lack of communication. My husband and I had never really talked about our expectations for his mother's visits. We just assumed the other person was on the same page. I also realized that I needed to be more assertive about my needs. I had a tendency to bottle things up until I exploded, which wasn't healthy for anyone. In the end, setting boundaries with my mother-in-law was a risk, but it paid off. Our relationship is still a work in progress, but we're in a much better place now. I know that dealing with in-laws can be a challenge for a lot of people. It's easy to feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, trying not to rock the boat. But at the end of the day, your well-being and the well-being of your family should come first. If you're struggling with a similar situation, my advice would be to communicate openly and honestly with your partner. Don't be afraid to set boundaries and stand up for yourself. It might be uncomfortable at first, but it's worth it in the long run. Thanks for reading and for all your support. I'll keep you updated on how things go from here. Am I the idiot for starting a relationship with someone else after my wife stopped being intimate? A few months ago, I posted for relationship advice on another subreddit. Basically, my wife has unilaterally decided that we are done having intimacy. She found out that she cannot have kids due to a choice she made before we met, and kids, apparently, are the only reason she was willing to have intimacy. I love my wife and I enjoy being intimate with her, but it was making our marriage untenable after 2 years of this, so I posted for advice. I received a lot of great support and suggestions about how to talk to my wife. I tried a lot of it. I started going for counseling for myself as well. But no matter how I approached her about our situation, she would not try and see it from my point of view. Every discussion would end with her crying and screaming in my face, accusing me of trying to emotionally manipulate her. I then wrote her a letter outlining my feelings and asking her to come with me for counseling, to seek it for herself, perhaps to go see a doctor. I was kind and loving in the letter. The last thing I wanted to do was set her off. I worked on the wording with my counselor to make sure I wasn't saying anything aggressive that could be misinterpreted. She read the letter. Then she scrawled across it with her red Sharpie, saying, "Go get it elsewhere because you are not getting it from me." Then she walked out. I sat there for about an hour doing nothing. Then I told myself that was what I was going to do. We are both fairly successful in our jobs. I'm not super attractive, but I'm fit and a good talker. It took a while, but I met someone. We started out as just friends, but it became physical. I made sure she knew I was married. She is not interested in a relationship, so I guess I am a safe option for her. My wife found out because I did not try to hide it. She was crying when I got home one night. When I came in, she asked if I was going to leave her. I said no. She asked if I was cheating on her, and I said I was getting intimacy elsewhere. She said that was cheating, and I did not disagree. I asked her what she wanted to do. She said I had to stop. I asked her if we were going to start having intimacy. She said I was an irrational jerk if I thought that she would have intimacy with me after I cheated. I went to my desk and pulled out a photocopy of the letter I wrote with her answer in it. I went to have a shower and go to my room to sleep. When I woke up, she was sitting on the couch waiting to talk. She said that she reread the letter and that she realized she had not before. She assumed it was just a letter begging for intimacy. She said she would go for counseling alone and with me. All I had to do was stop having intimacy elsewhere. I said I would be willing to pause my friendship until we saw a counselor, and that if I saw progress in our relationship, I would break it off. She said she would not agree to counseling without me leaving the other woman. It almost turned into a fight, so I just went for my run. Before I left, I asked her what would compel her to go to counseling if I stopped having intimacy elsewhere. When I got back, she still did not have an answer. She couldn't even say that our relationship was worth saving. I don't want a divorce, but I am willing to leave over this. I am 28 years old, and I am not going to go the rest of my life without intimacy. She refuses to see my side. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You two aren't compatible. Are you the type of person that wants to have intimacy with someone who doesn't want to have intimacy? I don't think there's therapy that will change her mind on what she doesn't enjoy doing. Just get a divorce. No matter who wins, one of you will resent the other. You keep getting it somewhere else, she sees it as cheating and gets mad. You stop seeing someone else, you no longer have intimacy and resent her. She caves, gives you intimacy, and just lays there while you do your thing. You're happy. She isn't. There is no happy ending where you two are still together. Comment 2. Holy crap. Only 28 and willing to go through all this just to have some little begging only with counseling intimacy? You've got years of intimacy left in you. Go find someone who loves and wants all of you fully. You deserve better, and she deserves to find someone she can be in an asexual relationship with, if that's what she wants. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a rough couple of weeks since then, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on. After our last conversation, my wife and I didn't really talk much for a few days. The tension was thick, and we were both just kind of avoiding each other. I kept seeing my friend, but I was honest with my wife about it. She didn't like it, but she also wasn't willing to budge on the counseling issue. About a week later, I came home from work to find my wife sitting at the kitchen table with a bunch of papers in front of her. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I want a divorce." I was shocked. I knew things were bad, but I didn't think it had gotten to this point. We talked for a long time that night. She said she couldn't handle the thought of me being with someone else, even if it was just physical. She felt like I had betrayed her trust and our marriage vows. I tried to explain my side again, but she just couldn't see it. The next few days were a blur of lawyers and paperwork. We decided to do a collaborative divorce, which means we work together to come to an agreement instead of fighting it out in court. It's been hard, but we both agreed it was the best way to go. In the midst of all this, I found out something about my wife's past that I never knew before. Apparently, when she was in college, she had a baby unaliving. She never told me about it, but it came out during one of our discussions with the divorce mediator. She said it was a decision she regretted, and it was part of the reason why she was so against having kids now. I was shocked. I had no idea she had been through something like that. It made me see her in a different light. I realized that maybe her aversion to intimacy wasn't just about the kids issue, but also about the trauma she had experienced in the past. We've been working through the divorce process for the past week or so. It's been tough, but we're trying to be as amicable as possible. We've agreed to split our assets fairly and to continue to support each other as friends, even if we're not together anymore. I've been seeing a therapist to help me work through my own feelings about everything. It's been helpful to have someone to talk to who isn't directly involved in the situation. I've also been leaning on my friends and family for support. As for my friend, we've decided to end things. It was never meant to be a long-term thing, and with everything going on, it just didn't feel right anymore. We're still friends, but we're not seeing each other in that way anymore. I know this isn't the outcome I was hoping for when I first posted here, but in a way, I feel like it's the best thing for both of us. We were stuck in a cycle of hurt and resentment, and neither of us was willing to budge. Maybe this is the wake-up call we both needed to start fresh and find happiness on our own terms. Thanks again for all your support and advice. It means a lot to know that there are people out there who understand what I'm going through. I'll keep you all updated on how things go from here. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!